Okay. So welcome everyone. My name is HeatherAsh, Amara, and tonight our topic is healing, initiations, and rituals for women. And I'm really delighted to have a full crew here in Austin, Texas. Everyone say hello. As well as many women joining us global via the webcast. And I was pondering about this. 2 years ago I did this class for the first time, and it was for 6 women. And we had such an incredible interaction with each other as we did this class. And I remember leaving it thinking, this is something that I need to share in a really big way. This is something that is so valuable for women that I want to figure out how to get it out. And there's been a lot of miracles that have happened in the last 2 weeks. And I just want to thank some of the people that have helped make this broadcast go out to last count was over 1,300 women tonight. So, welcome to all of you. And people that I want to thank is the Ruizes, Don Miguel Ruiz, my teacher, who sent it out to his list. So welcome to everyone that's from the Ruiz list. And also to Joe Vitale, who last minute just so graciously sent an invite out to his list. And we have over 907 last check of folks that are from Joe's list. Wow. So blessings and welcome to all of you women. And it's going to be a really delightful evening. So, and to all the TOSI, and then the other thing, the TOSI team, I call my team and go, okay, instead of having 100 women, we're having 1,300. They're like, all right, we're on it. So thank you so much to Nico and Sheila and River and Stephanie and all the people, Lori and everybody that I've forgotten. Blessings. It takes a lot of women to hold a container for what we're all doing right now as women. And that's part of why I'm so passionate about sharing for women right now, is that so many of us are in big transformation and big change. I've talked to a lot of women that have done years of healing work, therapy, spiritual work, that are at a place where maybe they've transformed areas in their life, but there's still a yearning, there's still something that feels like it's missing. And part of that for me that I've seen is community, is us coming together in community to support each other as sisters. And that community is so valuable and so needed. So what I'm hoping for tonight is that for even those of you that are global and that are someplace off without a community right now, we'll see if we can shift that you can really tap into the energy that's here in Austin at the center, and that also that you're part of right now a circle of women that are tuning into this broadcast. Even if you're listening to this broadcast recorded, there's an energetic that we're going to create today as women, and it's about women coming together to support each other in our healing, in our unfolding, and really around stepping into our power. There's been an old model that we've held as women that we compete against each other, that we're threatened by each other, that we have to negotiate scarce resources. And so there's a way that we've seen each other as competition, and that really has to end. And so I hope that part of this broadcast tonight is that we can begin that process of healing and coming together as women, supporting each woman, and not seeing it as a threat when a woman steps up into her power. Not see it as something to use to judge ourselves around, but seeing it as a model, seeing it as an inspiration. Seeing it as a woman that's stepping into her authenticity and her integrity and helping us to do the same through her courage and her energy. So, yay! I was really blessed to have had many phenomenal women teachers and sisters throughout my life. And I think one of the really potent things in my life was that my parents, when we were really young, we were raised in Southeast Asia, and we moved every 2 years. And my parents took us around the world every year. We would go someplace else. And it was so transformative for me, looking back now. At the time I wasn't too pleased about having to move every 2 years. But as an adult now, looking back, I realized I was so gifted with getting to see many different types of humans in different situations, and just to experience the incredible variety that we are as humans. The ways that we think differently, the ways that we interact with each other differently. And one of the places that had a really strong impact on me and my teaching was the years that I lived in Thailand. And we lived in Bangkok before there was McDonald's, before there was peanut butter, before there were a lot of Western things that are now part of that culture. But at the time, what struck me so deeply is people's incredible love for each other, as well as their connection to spirit, their connection to something higher. And we can term it many different things. My favorite is how Don Miguel talks about it, is the life force. So that we're connecting to something greater than ourselves. And that life force connects us all and opens us all and informs us. And so I saw that flow. I saw that connection. I saw that beauty of what happens when communities really support each other in a way of beauty. And when I first came to the United States to go to college, it was a little bit of a shock because what I felt was disconnection. And I felt that in myself, and I felt that in the people around me. And it took me a while of really exploring why am I feeling disconnected? Why do the people around me feel disconnected? And how can we come back together again to create wholeness inside of ourselves and with each other? And I did politics for a couple years and took that route, and at the end of many years of many marches, realized, everyone I know is angry. We're all angry and nothing's changing. And so that was when I began to study many different spiritual traditions. I spent a lot of time in the library. I went to UC Davis, and a dear friend of mine, Autumn, and I would spend hours looking through books and exploring. And it was from that initial exploring that was really just from my impulse to find what felt like it was missing inside of me, that I started exploring these different traditions. And it was really beautiful because just to show the hunger that we have for something greater than what we've been doing 9 to 5, my friend Autumn and I decided to just offer a class, really simple. We just thought, 10 women will show up for women around what we've been discovering. This was in 88, I believe, 1988. So in this first class, which is really the inspiration for this class tonight, we had 60 women show up. And we were both like, and Autumn looks at me and I look at Autumn and she goes, I'll take 30 if you take 30. And I said, okay. So we split the group up, and that was really the start of me teaching. It just came out of my love of sharing what I was learning. And so since then, a couple years have passed, and I've gathered a lot of tools, a lot of information, a lot of resources. And so that's what I want to share with all of you tonight and next Wednesday, the 14th. This is a 2-part class. You can come to one or both. And there'll be a lot of tools and resources around what is initiation, what is healing for us as women in terms of ritual. And this is one of the pieces I've seen has really been missing for us as women. I think it's for men as well, and women are much more receptive to getting this in their body and going, oh yeah, this would have made a huge difference in my life. So I'd like you to just imagine this for a moment. I'd like you to remember back to when you first started menstruating. So the first time that you realized that you were bleeding, and what was your experience? How was it acknowledged or not acknowledged? How did you feel about it? So just take a moment, everyone, and close your eyes and let yourself go back to that time in your life, which was a huge change, this enormous transformation in your body, and just to notice what your feeling was. How was that supported or not in your family? Good. And go ahead and open your eyes. Let's just have a couple of you share really briefly. What was your experience?
Shame.
Shame?
I was embarrassed.
Embarrassed?
Scared.
Scared. Simultaneous scared. Okay.
No support.
No support. Yeah. Is there anywhere in this room, and we can ask for those of you that are global, go ahead and chat and share as well. And we've got Sheila checking the chats, and so.
My mother made me feel terrible about it.
Yeah, mother made me feel terrible about it.
I felt like a bother because she had to go to the store.
Bother because she had to go to the store. And a woman once told me that that the reaction she got was freaked out by her mother because her mother realized she could now get pregnant. So lots of like, she's 13. She's like, I can get what? So for many of us, there was no support. There was very little support.
It's odd, but I got support from my father.
Support from your father.
He asked me to come in, and he told me very gravely that he was proud of me because he knew I was now a young woman.
Oh, beautiful,
Nice.
beautiful, beautiful. So I've done this talk a lot, and every once in a while there's an acknowledgement.
That's the last good thing he had to say.
Well, bless him for saying it then, right? Okay. I want you to imagine this. Imagine if, when you first had your period, that your mother really celebrated and was excited and shared with you her excitement around you becoming a woman. And if she then called the people in your community together and brought you together, and I read about this ritual that I just loved, and I've also talked to a lot of my friends now that have daughters that have done similar things that are so beautiful. So imagine that you're brought into a potluck where all the food is red in honor of you, and you're given gifts, and people just love on you and support you and are proud of you. And then imagine this. Then they take you and they bring you to the beach and they tie a red thread around your wrist and your mother's wrist. And they send you and they ask you to run on the beach as far as you can. So you and your mother are running together, and when she gets tired, she stops and they cut the string and you keep running. Still brings tears to my eyes. Okay? Of just the honoring of this is the next generation going forward, and we love you and we bless you. And then to come back and have all the men feeding you. What do you want? What do you need? How can we be of service to you? So that there's not a segregation of women and men. It's the community coming together to honor this beautiful gift that's happening. Okay? Yum. And how that might change your perception of yourself. Okay. This is the power of ritual. What a ritual is it's an act that we do. I think about it as art, three-dimensional art, to honor a transition. That's it. That's all ritual is. Ritual and ceremony is something that we do that honors a transition. Okay. That transition for us as women to our first menstruation is a major transition. And in many cultures, what happens for men and for women, for boys and for girls, is during puberty, right as they're starting to go through adolescence, there is an initiation ceremony. And the initiation ceremony is to honor going from youth to becoming an adult. And often the boys and girls are sent out to go vision, to find what's their vision, what's their gift, and to then bring that gift back to the community. And it reminds me of my goddaughter, Rowan, who is Autumn's daughter, exceptional girl. I got to be at her birth. You gotta love it when babies come out of the womb smiling with their eyes open, staring at you. And that was Rowan. And Rowan recently has been teaching at her church. They've asked her to come up with the elders to talk about her experience as a young person, then have the elders in the church talk about their experience. And she has so much self-confidence in that way of sharing who she is now, because that's what's being honored in her community, that she has voice. She has something to share. Whoa, how beautiful. Okay. So that's part of what this idea of initiation and ritual can give us, is that transition for us to step into our power. And in some traditions, and I think this is beautiful, what some traditional cultures will do is they'll actually go through a grieving process of letting go of the child. They'll act as if the child is dead. And why they do that is they're letting go of their idea of who they think the child is, who they believe that child to be, so that when this child comes back, they can see the child as an adult with new eyes. Another wow. Can you imagine if we were given that gift of, I'm going to let go of who I think you are? I mean, I know many of our parents still treat us the same way they treated us when we were 10. Yes? And it's partially because there's never been that shift of, let me look at you as an adult now rather than as my child. Okay. So another transition. So we have many transitions that happen to us throughout our lifetime. So that's one main one, is around that, what I feel like is a very pivotal point in our lives around becoming adults. And since we didn't get that initiation, many of us end up carrying patterns of childhood forward with us. A belief that others will take care of us, a belief that we're not valued or we don't have anything to give. And I really do believe part of that is because we didn't get that transition. Okay. Here's the cool part. It doesn't matter. Why? Because we can do it now. Okay. So let's not spend any time feeling blame, upset, frustration that our parents weren't able to give this to us, or around the culture not honoring any transition, basically. But simply go, okay, that's something that could have been useful, and we'll talk more about what else might be useful. And so what do I need to do to give that to myself now? And that's what this is about. It's about actually going back and rewriting your past in a way that you can then step into the present from a place of power, from a place of having integrated your experiences as you were growing up. Okay. So ritual and ceremony, simple, marks a transition in your life. Marks a transition in your life. And how we do that is by, one, naming the transition. And then there's 5 different steps to ritual. And I think of them more as guidelines. So a guideline is, you can use it if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, throw it out. But those 5 steps, I want to share those with you tonight so you have an idea of a container for a ceremony or ritual. And that's really what ritual is it's a container for healing. Part of what creates that container is your intent, is your focus, is your desire to heal. So if you go in to do a ritual and you're holding blame that you didn't get something, it's not a healing attitude. So you want to start with the healing attitude, which is, I'm wanting to create transformation in my life by cleaning up the past. And that doesn't mean changing anybody else. It means changing you here in this moment. So the first step around ritual is to create sacred space. And what do I mean by that? Sacred space is simply anything that you do to tell your being, this is different than normal life. Okay? So that might be as simple as sitting down and taking a breath, and that creates sacred space. It might be more elaborate of lighting a candle or burning incense or ringing a bell. Sometimes I love doing something like cleaning the house really well and then taking a bath and then going, okay, now I'm ready. Okay, so it's basically, what would you need to do to put yourself in a frame where you're not interrupted? Creating sacred space, let's try turning the cell phone off. And creating a space that's just for you. And really, this is what so much we need as women around healing. Because for many of us, our focus has been on everybody else. Okay, what everyone else needs, what our kids need, what our partners need, what our friends need, what is needed at work. And because of that, our energy is really scattered out of what do I need to take care of these people out here. instead of what is it that I need for myself to nourish myself. And one big place of nourishing for us is just simply giving ourselves time, putting ourselves first in some areas, so that we're really consciously nourishing ourselves and not just everybody else. So that's what creating sacred space is about. Creating a space that's for you, which means uninterrupted. And if you have little kids, that might be, Mommy's taking 5 minutes in the bathroom, I'll be right back. That might be what you're able to do. Or when the child goes down for a nap, okay, you have it all ready to go. Okay, so be creative for yourself. And feel into, how can I bring this into my world? How can I bring this into my world in a way that will help me to heal the past? Because truly, if you want to create change now, if you want to change the inside or change the outside, because the truth is it's all the same. Okay, anything that we want to shift outside is happening in here. It's about beliefs that we want to undo in here. And it's those beliefs that we're wanting to unfold. And that's part of what ritual helps us to do, is it helps us to access a non-verbal part of our beings. Okay. Very valuable. Because the verbal part of us, you might notice that your mind's a little crazy. Okay, if you've ever checked in and listened to your mind, you might notice that it's very judgmental, very critical, feels victimized, takes things personally a lot, and makes up all sorts of stories about who you should be, okay, or who you shouldn't be. And what it's often done is it's a part of us, there's a part of us that tries to keep ourselves safe, and how it does that is it looks outside, and this is another piece I think the initiation would help shift. But what we do is we look outside to who we think people want us to be. Who do we think people want us to be? And then we start to create an image of that. And how I see it is that many of us have an image of this is who I'm supposed to be, that we're trying to live up to. And so what we're constantly doing is comparing who I am now to that image, to who I am now to that image. And whenever we do that, we're in constant judgment of ourselves because we can't live up to this image. And let me tell you a secret. I tried this, so I know. I've done lots of data and research on this. Even if you do everything perfect, and you do everything perfect so that you become this image of perfection, it'll change. Mm-hmm. The judge will change the rules and go, oh, well, great, glad you got there, but this is actually where you need to be. Okay, it's not a battle you can win. You cannot win that game of I'll compare myself to this until I get there, and then it'll stop comparing me, and then I can rest and enjoy my life. Doesn't work that way. Okay, enjoy your life from here instead of trying to get there. Okay, and that's part of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be in the world. Let it go, so that you can find out who you are rather than who you think you're supposed to be. So let go of that image of perfection to come back to right here, of who you actually are. And that's going to be a journey. That's to be curious about who you are. Because really, when we start letting go of who we think we're supposed to be, sometimes what arises is I have no idea who I am or what I like. Because I've spent so much time trying to figure out what others want. Okay. So it's a fun adventure, actually. It's self-discovery. And part of that self-discovery is to look at what beliefs do you hold that don't serve you now. Each of us take on beliefs as we're growing up that don't support us. And part of doing ritual work is actually consciously beginning to let those go. And to do it in a ritual way. So there's one thing to think about the belief. Let's think of a common belief that almost all of us have. So anybody name, what's a belief that many humans have?
I'm not enough.
I'm not enough. Ding, 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 ding. Bingo. Okay, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, I'm not enough. Okay? How many of you can relate? Okay, how deeply ingrained that is. Not enough. That's a belief. When we think about that, it's hard to unwind it. Yes, it's such a big one. It's so deep. And that's where ritual can be very helpful because, as I said before, what ritual accesses is what we can call our magical self or our deeper self. So there's our talking self, which is the mind and the way that we mostly interact. And then there's the subconscious. There's a much deeper part of us. And the way the subconscious works partially is on energy, emotion, and physical, kinesthetic action. Okay, that's what helps to rewire it. Thinking about it, not so much. Okay. If you could put 100% of your energy into the thought, I am enough, and invest 100% of your energy into that, you'd shift it. But most of us don't have the capacity to round up 100% of our energy and put it into a new agreement. And if you think about for how long you've been telling yourself over and over again, I'm not enough, it's a lot of energy that's been invested in that agreement. Okay. So it takes energy to rewire that agreement, and doing it through ritual is very helpful. And that's why first step of ritual is to create sacred space. In whatever form, how do you create sacred space for yourself? And that can be to call in teachers that you've had in the past, allies. The elements are very traditional in many religions. The 4 elements, air, fire, and water, and earth, are often used in a ceremonial way because they're, how I see it, is they're the first manifestation of the unseen world into the physical world. So without just one of those elements, if there was no fire, there'd be no life. If there was no water, there'd be no life. So they're vital, they're building blocks to this existence. So they're wonderful to call in to honor the aspects of ourselves and of life. Okay. So how do you create sacred space for yourself? Then the second is around, what do you want to let go of? What do you want to release? What is it that you want to clear? And it is about clearing. It's about creating space. Because if I want to bring something new in, I first have to empty something else out. Yeah? And so part of that is then naming what do you want to release before you even get to what you want. What do you want to release first? So that's the second step of ritual. And we do that through creation. So example would be to write down what you want to release on a piece of paper and then to burn it. Or to rip it up into little shreds. Or to dance it out. Or just to speak it out loud with intent. My intent is to release self-doubt. Okay. And to be creative in how you do the releasing. The more physical you can do it, the better. And what I mean by that is the more you can bring it into action. So one thing, like dancing things out, is a really powerful way to clear. Another example is if you can imagine your self-doubt and think about what it feels like. And let's say when you feel self-doubt, you feel like it's this heaviness. Then you get a blanket and you sit and really hold, what does self-doubt feel like? And then breathe, and then when you're ready, go, okay, I'm releasing self-doubt, and throw it out. Okay? To our rational mind, we're like, well, that's silly. But to the subconscious, that's a powerful act. It's an action that our being then gets behind and goes, oh, okay, you want to let go of that? All right. And it doesn't have to come from a mental place. It's from taking the action in sacred space. So be creative around that. The next piece is to bring something in. What is it that you want? And there's a trick. Naming what you want. Okay, this is something else that I've seen for us as women, that we often have a tendency to not only not speak what we want, but not even be sure what we want. to really have no idea what we want because we're too busy looking at what do other people want or what do we think we're supposed to want. Or because we have a belief I'm not supposed to have any wants at all. And so we're just not clear. So doing ritual can help us to come back to naming what we want to let go of, and then also speaking, putting our energy behind what we want to create, what we want to bring in. And it can be real helpful to use the 4 elements in this, of using fire, for example, to light a candle with the intent of this is what I want to bring in. Okay. Of using earth and planting a seed. This is the seed that I'm planting that I want to create, and then nourishing that seed over time. Again, physical actions that teach us, that remind the body, this is what I want you to do, that are really powerful. Okay. Then always a period of integration. We need way more integration in our life, just to sit and be quiet and let it settle of this is what I've released, this is what I'm bringing in. So a time of silence, 4th step. And the 5th step then is around opening the circle back up. So releasing and bringing it back into your world. And what this is, what we're talking about really is something that humans have been doing for thousands and thousands of years. There's people throughout all traditions, all different parts of the world that travel between this physical realm and the unseen or the spiritual realm, we can say, to gather information and come back. And those people are called shamans. And that they specifically travel to gather information to bring back to their community to bring healing. And my belief is that right now, with how much is transforming in the world, it's really vital for all of us to reclaim that shamanic part of ourselves. Our capacity to travel between this physical realm and the unknown, we can say, and back again. And the truth is, we do it a lot, just naturally. When we open, we realize, have you ever had the moment when you've really wanted to manifest something in your life and you haven't been sure how to do it, but you open to there's a way, and then you wake up from a dream and you're like, there it is. Mm-hmm. Okay? Part of that is you've traveled somewhere else, okay, to tap into another realm to get that information that you're then bringing back through into the physical realm. And it's really important that we're able to bridge those the intuition, the ahas, the openings. Because otherwise you go and you get the information and then you don't bring it back, which means you come back and you go, I wonder what that was about. And you don't remember it, which doesn't make it really useful. So part of what ritual does is it teaches us also to travel and to step out. And it's really simple. It's stepping outside of the regular world that you live in. And saying, I'm willing to create a space to open to something greater than what I know now. To create healing for myself. And in that healing, as we heal ourselves, as we begin to clear the past, we then bring that energy into the world, and that creates healing all around us. Good.
What was step 5 again?
So the 5 steps, thank you, to review. 5 steps. First one, create sacred space. Second one, what do you want to release? What are you letting go of? Naming what you want to let go of. Third, what do you want to bring in? And then the 4th, integration, time of silence. And then the 5th is then opening the circle back up and taking that information back into your world. And that takes action. Okay? That takes taking the information and bringing that into action. Good. So dream with me for a moment. So dream with me the feeling sense of having been honored from moving from adolescent to becoming a woman. And just the feeling sense of what it would have been like in your life to have had mentors, allies, guides, to have been able to walk you through that transition, to have given you, from a positive point of view, this is a beautiful transition you're in. Here's all the gifts that you're going to get from that. Doesn't your whole body just go, ah, yay. And we can do that in all the transitions that happened to us in the past and begin to do that for ourselves moving forward. So where we've used ritual and ceremony in our culture, there's a couple places that we still do ritual and ceremony in our culture. And one is birthdays. Okay, there's some ritual and honoring of birthdays still. What's the biggest one?
Christmas.
Christmas. Coming up, yes. And then what one life transition is marked for women more than anything else?
Weddings.
Weddings. Okay. And how interesting. Okay. How interesting is that? Because truly, the biggest ritual that's held up as like the biggest ritual in your life is going to be the day you get married. And after that, it's all downhill. Really. And it's so interesting. I remember talking with my dear friend Peggy, and she was saying that they're now having a syndrome that's post-wedding depression. That's pretty serious. Yeah. And why it is that, think about this. You spend a year for big weddings, right, preparing for this day where you get to be the star for a day. The day's usually awful. Most brides I've talked to is horrible. Okay? Because it's stressful. Now you're going to fall off the damn shoes. Okay? So, are you going to trip on your dress? I mean, so, but there's all this energy putting toward, and it's a beautiful ritual. I'm not knocking the ritual because it's a gorgeous ritual, and it's one thing that does bring community together. Okay, that and people dying are what bring community together. So let's see, people dying or wedding. Let's go for the wedding. But it does bring people together. But the issue is, it's the one ritual that's been so glorified in our culture as the one until you die. And then they'll do another one for you. But you won't be there. Okay. Dang. That just seems unfair.
You might be, but you won't care.
You might be, but you won't care. Yeah. So you put all this energy into the day, and then the next day, it's like, now what do I do? Now what do I do? Yeah. Because now you got a relationship. Shit. What do you do with this? Nobody told you about this part of it. They just told me about the wedding and the prettiness and, okay. And I'm jesting, but it's true. And that's what's starting to happen, is that there's this sense of after the wedding, well, now what's my life about? Because my life was that day. Okay. Quick, get divorced and get married again. Can always do that.
They used to have babies right away.
Yeah, our babies. Yeah, and that just, yeah. So again, I love weddings. I love wedding. I've been married to the same person 4 times now. I think we've gotten married because it's so fun. We're like, let's do that again. I love ritual, so it's like, what a great excuse for ritual. Let's do it again. Okay. But I also ritualize almost everything in my life in some way and honor it as a transition. So when I move from one house to another, I do ceremony, I do ritual to honor. I'm leaving this place. What do I want to release? What do I want to move towards? Okay, changing jobs, changing relationships. To have, I mean, can you imagine if we had really beautiful divorce ceremonies? Wouldn't that be great? Okay. Because it's part, yeah, that'd be nice instead of what I did. Yeah. Okay. So we can start, as women, we can start bringing more ritual in. And we can also start bringing more ritual into what's already there. So example, Christmas. Here we are. We're about to move to Christmas. Okay? So you can look at what ritual would I want to create with myself or with my family. So to first get clear, what would be the intent of the ritual? What is it that you'd want to bring? Who would you want to involve? So it may be that you go, oh, I don't want to involve everyone, but I'd like these 4 people to do something with me, and let's see what it is. Okay. We created a ritual for my mom's birthday, which I love, which is around eating crab. But we have this whole it's like the family ritual now that we've created that we do every year. Okay. So it doesn't have to be, we're all going to light a candle and we're all going to do woo-woo stuff. It can be, what do I want to bring that's going to bring harmony and connection into my family that would create a new tradition, a new ritual. Okay. And it also might be something like, I need more space to myself. So for me, the ritual and the ceremony for this year, for the holidays, is I'm going to go away someplace for 3 days by myself. Okay. That might be what you need to nourish yourself and to use that as a transition. Okay, so just ideas to play with. But let's look both forward and back. The forward part is, how can you bring more ceremony into your own life around the transitions that are coming up for you? Whatever those transitions are, whether that transition is child going to college, okay, whether that transition is leaving a job so that you can start your own business, whether that transition is moving from one place to another. And when we bring it consciously into, how do I honor this transition, you can be really creative and give yourself such a gift. Because, for example, instead of just moving and all the chaos of moving, you can be mindful of every box that I'm packing. Before I pack, what do I want to release? Okay, I want to release everything that's from the past that doesn't really serve me. Okay? And suddenly, instead of the craziness of moving, you're in ritual of like, oh, this doesn't serve me any longer. Oh, this doesn't serve me any longer. And what happens as you do that is your being goes, oh, well, what else do we need to let go of that doesn't serve us? And so you start creating more space automatically inside of your being. And then as you move into your new house, what energy do I want to put into this house, for example? And you do that consciously. Very different than what we often do. Okay? So look at all of the different transitions in your life and start to explore, what rituals or ceremonies can I bring into this moment? And again, I gave you 5 steps, but you may just do 1 step. Okay, you might do 3. You might create your own. Let it be spontaneous. And there's different types of rituals. There's rituals that you do by yourself. They're individual rituals. And then there are community rituals. So here at TOSI, we always have solstice and equinox community gatherings to mark the different times of the year. Longest day of the year, longest night of the year, and then the equinoxes are the balance point of those two. And it's wonderful because when you do community ritual over time, you get to see how you've shifted. It's really beautiful for us to sit in TOSI at the winter solstice and look back at what's shifted for us over the last 6 months since the summer solstice. And then what's shifted in the last year. Where were you at winter solstice last year? Lots of information, and it informs us of what has changed. And that's something we really need as women, is to celebrate what has changed, rather than just looking at what hasn't shifted. All the places that we have transformed internally and created our world the way that we would like it to be. So that we really take the time to honor that. And that's part of what ritual can do as well, is honor what has shifted and bring it into our consciousness more, to bring it into the cycles more. So rather than the straight lines of I'm getting from here to here, this is I've checked this off my list, keep going, there's all these things ahead of me. Okay? Oh my God, that's so exhausting. But to change it to a circular way of being with ourselves, where we know there's things that we've accomplished that we celebrate, and we honor that everything takes the time it's going to take. It unfolds as it's supposed to unfold. So there's that sense of coming back into a natural cycle where things are born, things exist, and things die. And out of that death comes a rebirth. Okay. When we really recognize that, we'll start having really groovy divorce ceremonies. Okay, or really groovy end of friendship, end of relationship ceremonies, because we recognize that's part of the cycle. Okay. For example, we can then honor the loss of a job as with so much gratitude, thank you for that job, and now I'm open to, okay, what is it that I really want to create for myself? And bringing that forward for ourselves. So it rewires how we are in the world in a really beautiful way. Good. So I'm going to open up for just a couple minutes to see if anybody has any questions, and then we're going to talk about the setup for next week's class, which is going to be so cool. So if you're on the call, you can press *6 to share. And if you're on chat, Sheila is standing by and she'll share any questions you have, and also any questions from the Austin folks as well. So lines are open for a couple minutes. Any questions or anything that you want to share?
Can you speak more to the integration after you bring what you want in?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So the question was around the integration piece of how to integrate. The integration piece is really simple in that it's about going into stillness. Is one way to look at it. And that stillness might be just sitting in meditation. That stillness might be getting up and just walking around slowly, or even moving, to just give your body permission to feel. What does it feel like with that thing released? What does it feel like with what you've brought in new? So it's a settling period. So if you can think about when you're, oh, this is a nice way to put it too. When you're cooking and you've mixed a whole bunch of things together, like if you're making salsa and you stick the salsa in the fridge, what are you doing? You're letting all the flavors blend and mix, and then it tastes yummier. So it's similar to that, where you've created something, you've released something, you've brought things in, but you've created a new mix in your being. And what you're doing now is going, okay, let's let it settle. And it's appropriate that you're asking the question, because it's something that we're not taught about. We're really taught, do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing. We're not taught, do something and then let it integrate. There's no time for integration anymore. There really isn't. Okay? We used to be able to integrate because things took a lot longer to do. One of my favorite integrating periods in my life right now is cleaning my house. Okay, it's an action, but you can do the action of sweeping the floor of like, okay, good, done. You know, done with that, I'm on to the next thing. Or you can really mindfully just let it be an integration of your day. Okay. Yeah. Good. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Sheila.
You mentioned it took you a year to get rid of guilt. Did you do daily rituals for a year to release the guilt?
Oh, someone's been reading ahead on. So somewhere they read, which is true, I once spent a year clearing guilt. And this is part around ritual as well, that one day I recognized that I had a lot of guilt. That wasn't so difficult to recognize. Okay, but I really started paying attention. Once I was like, well, what's this guilt thing? And I started tracking it. I started getting curious about it. And so I started tracking it, and what I recognized is that I felt guilty a lot. And I hadn't really noticed that. And as I tracked it more, what I started recognizing was, not only do I feel guilty a lot, I feel guilty about everything. It was kind of surprising, because I thought I was just feeling guilty where it was appropriate to feel guilt. But the truth was that when I really looked at what my emotional experience was that I felt guilty a lot, whether I'd done something right or hadn't done it right. Whether someone liked it or didn't like it. It was kind of crazy. And so I decided to spend a year just exploring guilt. And I did do a lot of ritual around it. And in the beginning, it was like, what my thinking was, why do I have so much guilt? What did I do wrong? It must have been a past life, that's it. It must have been something terrible that I did in my childhood. So I just started exploring, and I started reading a lot about guilt. And this is a great way to make change in your life, is be curious. Okay? As long as I was judging myself for having so much guilt, nothing was going to change. Okay? The moment I brought it into ritual and started to do actions of like, I'm committed to releasing my guilt, what happens in ritual is that the energy begins. You're setting an energetic intent. I'm releasing guilt. Okay? An example, a beautiful way might be that you go to the river and go sit in the rapids and ask the water to help take your guilt away. Okay? And then you go back into your life and then you get clear, well, what do I want to put in place of guilt, for example? Boom. Okay, so then you get clear about what that is. What happens then is either you're going to let go of guilt. Boom, it's done. Yay, good job. Good ritual. Or you're going to start seeing what you need to clean to clear the guilt. And so that's what happened to me, is I set it in motion through ritual and kept doing ritual, and then I brought it into my life and kept doing the work to clear the guilt. Okay? And part of that was tracking, where do I feel guilty? What I recognized over time is I feel guilty all the time. Okay, that was news. What I got from then sitting and integrating and meditating and opening and cleaning some more, and to recognize, wait a minute, this isn't about me. What I'm feeling is the guilt that is in the culture, that's so deeply embedded in the culture. Oh, this is not my guilt that I'm carrying around. When we do that from a headspace, things don't shift. But I got it in my body because I'd sat with it, because I'd stalked myself, because I'd watched. And that's what allowed it to finally shift. Okay? Yeah, so that's what doing ritual and ceremony can do, is it gets the energy moving, and then you get to see, what do you really need to clean up to do it. So we'll talk more about the cleaning up process on the next call. I want to share two things before we end today. One is to plant a seed for you. I'd like you to spend the next week going back through the ages between, let's say, 5 and 15, and it could be 0 to 20, that range, 5 to 15, 0 to 20, of different transitions that happened in your life that were big. Okay, I'd like you to start journaling. And you don't need to go into the big details of it if you don't want to. You can just say, for me it would be like moving from California to Bangkok. Time that my dog died. Okay. Time that my neighbor got mad at me. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else, but I read that and I go, oh, I remember what that one was. Okay. And you might want to go deeper and write about what was your experience when your parents got divorced, or when you got beat up on the schoolyard when you were 10. Okay, or when you started menstruating and it was really traumatic. Okay, whatever it is, it can be anything. Look at, I'd like you to find 3 events that happened to you as you were growing up young that had an impact on you. Okay? And what we're going to do next Wednesday is we're going to then narrow that down to pick one event, and then we're going to rewire that event. It's amazing. You guys are going to be so blown away at what happens. Because you think, oh, well, that was in the past, it's done. It's not done. It's not done. You can go change it, and it'll change you in the present drastically. It's amazing how it works. So come back with that list of about 3 things, and then we'll go through some processes together to narrow it down. And we'll then talk about doing ceremony and ritual. We'll actually do some ceremony and ritual with each other, even globally. This will be cool. So that you can rewire that experience. Okay? Please don't traumatize yourself over the next week by going over how bad it was. Okay? That's not the assignment. the assignments around healing, and the healing is where were some of the transitions that were impactful in my life.
God, there were so many.
Yeah, so find those, don't use them against yourself. Okay? Good. Beautiful. And so next week we'll explore taking ritual into rewiring the past and bringing it forward into the future so that we can shift the present, so we can really be more aligned with the authenticity of who we are. And that's my passion, is helping people, and right now specifically women I'm really passionate about, is helping women to find their authenticity. It's time for us to come back to ourselves. And I want to offer something that's coming up next year that I'm really excited about. And you guys will be getting an email, for those of you that are global, actually everybody that signed up, which is you too, about a program that I have coming up that's called 13 Moons. And it's a year-long intensive program. And why I made it a year is because it takes time to change. It takes time to transform. And there's many different areas that we can focus on. So what 13 Moons does is it's incredibly comprehensive. We meet once a month and every other Wednesday. So 2 Wednesdays a month, 1 Saturday a month. And in that time, we go through different areas of our life. So we look at and do ceremony and ritual and create tools. You get a lot of tools throughout the entire program of things like how to speak your truth, how to clean up past sexual trauma, how to let go of any ancestral baggage that you're carrying forward. That class usually changes people's lives drastically. So there's really a lot of different areas that we work with, how to clearly communicate in your life. And it's geared towards you cleaning up all the different areas in your life so that you can find what's true for you. What is true for you? And what we found is that women that go through the program find their joy again, find their happiness again, find their creativity again. I remember last year someone came up to me at the beginning of the program and said, yeah, but I don't have enough money to do the program, so will it make me money? And I was like, well, I can't say, yes, the program will make you money. But what I can say is that everyone that's gone through it comes out the other side in a very different place than they were financially. And I love it. This woman just came up to me and she's like, oh my God, you were so right. Everything's changed. And she's actually doing work that she loves because she made a commitment to herself. And that's what 13 Moons is about. It's about you committing to yourself for a year and then getting the support you need from the circle, from the teachings. We have an amazing website that's part of the program so that you can let go of all the things that don't serve you and get clear about what does serve you, what you want to create more of in your life. It's a year-long ritual, truly. It's a year-long ceremony of transformation and change. So if you want to join us, we have a gift for you tonight. Thank you, Nico. Nico and I figured out, Nico's our web goddess, deity extraordinaire, and we figured out how to give you a coupon for $50 if you sign up in the next 2 days. So that's the gift, is that there's a coupon code that's being emailed to you. It's in your inbox right now. And if you plug that coupon code in when you go to sign up for 13 Moons, the initial payment is only $50 instead of $100, which is what the global cost is monthly. So go check that out. There's a lot more information around 13 Moons in that email, so you can go gather more information around it. And if you have any questions, just let us know here at tosiglobal@gmail.com or give us a call. All the contact information is in the email. And tune back in with us next Wednesday for the completion of this cycle and also for an introduction of the next free class I'm doing in January, which is, get ready, I love this class, Conscious Relationship and Sexual Integrity. So I take 2 of the biggest topics and put them into one class that will rearrange your brain in a really good way. So keep working on yourself this week of jotting down, here were 3 transitions, or going deeply into writing about those 3 transitions, bring them back with you next Wednesday, and we will shift. We'll look at ways, and we'll actually do it together, work together to create new ways of perceiving that experience and changing it so it rewires everything up to now. Because the truth is, everything's a cycle, and it's all happening simultaneously. So you change the past, you change the present. It's amazing in that way. It really is. Good. So thank you so much to the Global Sisters that joined us. We're going to go ahead and keep the broadcast running. We're going to end the recording. But for those of you that want to hang out while we do questions and sharings here, you're welcome to do so. And thanks for joining us. See you next week.